Are you all in on your business? Because if you're not, these might be some of the symptoms that you're dealing with.
Reactive. So everything you're feeling quite reactive. This is a big one that comes up. Number one. So every day you're putting out fires. Your team's calling you. How do I do this? Do that. Two would be it feels like Groundhog Day. It's just nothing changing. It's just the same repetitiveness.
It really feels like a treadmill almost, business and life.
And then every time they finish the project, it doesn't even feel like the needle is moved in the business.
Yeah, and I guess that's the same as a treadmill. You got to jump onto the next project straight away.
And you're not really celebrating, feel like it's worth celebrating, not proud of it. Or you just want to get rid of the client projects. It's just not worked out maybe, whatever. And then the fourth one there is not feeling in control. So it kind of maybe ties in some of the things above there, but that's
especially
just how
during
it's
these
articulated.
times,
Right, and we don't want our builders, the guys listening to this, we don't want them feeling like that. And so today we're going to talk about 3 things that we see in our successful builders that are consistent, that they're doing, it's involved in their life and business, that are helping them succeed.
Yeah, I mean, the first one is community, right? So are you surrounding yourself with people that are further ahead of you, or are you surrounding yourself with people that are up and coming still, like, at a place where you've already been?
And this is, I'm sure we have mentioned in other podcasts, because it's a big one, this community thing. Often we would talk about it in the sense of, I watch the podcast as well, but who are those 5? You're the average of your 5 common friends. So that's often the phrase that gets thrown around.
Yeah.
But it comes back to community and who you're surrounding yourself with. And I think if you're surrounding yourself with one, like you said, people who are closer or are where you wanting to get to, then you're going to be able to learn from them.
Yeah.
And also surrounding yourself with people who genuinely want you to win.
Yeah.
They want you to get ahead.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of studies done. Don't quote me like who did these studies and all this kind of stuff, but they've noticed that people are willing to help you until you get to a stage where they are at. They don't want you to surpass them.
That's it.
So it is a tough one. So sometimes you've got to move away from the people that you've been hanging around with. That's been great, in you building your business.
Yeah.
But can they keep up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. At first they want you to succeed, and then all of a sudden they don't want you to succeed, and they'll start sabotaging you.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not always really blatant and obvious. It can be very subtle. Talking you out of investing in yourself, talking you out of taking that next big step of faith, or talking you out of joint venturing with you guys have seen that. You take that next big step because you want to grow. You want to leave where you are and get to that next future desired state. Yeah. And those people start to go, I don't know, it's risky, or the naysayers, I guess.
And I mean, one thing we did in terms of this, because, we've been doing biz video for 11, 12 years now, and we were at a stage where we were like, man, we need a good group of people that we can look up to, mingle with, and kind of see what they're doing in their business and their lives. And that's why we joined Quantum Mastermind.
Yeah.
We invested a lot of money in that. And I mean, that brings me to the next point, which is you have to invest in this. You've got to invest in a community. Yeah. And there's a good quote that it's actually Andre, my brother, business partner. He mentioned this to me. And one of our old clients, ages ago, said this to him. She said, if you can't invest in yourself, how can others invest in you? Right. So if you invest in a community, you are getting so much value out of that.
Yeah.
You're getting the group of people, right, that are further ahead than you to show you what's possible. And also you're investing in yourself.
And one thing I'd add to that is if everyone is investing, they've had to, let's say, sacrifice in the short term to invest long term, time, energy, resources, money to get access to that community. And you're getting a group of people who they're all coming in going, you know what, I've had to give something, invest something to get access to this.
Yeah.
I'm going to come with way more intention and with purpose. Imagine putting yourself in a room with that level of people.
And it's funny because you can invest a couple of $100 in some sort of community or a lot of money. And what I've seen so far, and this is just my opinion, the more you invest in something like this, the more serious you take it, right? If you pay attention. Yeah. So we invested $54,000 for 1 year to be part of this Quantum Mastermind community. And I showed up every week. I showed up to all the events. There were 4 events in a year. Some of them were in America and we couldn't travel at that time, but all the Zoom ones we did, So I was able to surround myself with like next level kind of thinkers. That is just like mind blowing to me. You know, so it shows me a different side to business. So yeah, I mean, on this point, we've got a Sydney Builder workshop coming up in May, and I think there's an Auckland one coming up as well. So just check the show notes if you're listening to this and you want to attend a builder focused workshop where we talk about marketing and you're surrounding yourself with other builders. Check that link out.
The second one is a winning routine.
This one's important, eh?
Yeah, this one's big because
I mean, it's like like athletes, right?
Yeah.
If you're a professional athlete, you don't just wing it every day. You've got a very clear goal, and we'll talk about goals in 1 second. You have a really clear plan with your diet, your training, everything. Yeah. And that's got to be the same in business.
Definitely. And I think when we look at the guys that are succeeding, the routine looks different for everyone. Again, it's what works for you. So we're not going to prescribe a routine here today. But the guys that we're working with and talking to who are winning, there is something that they are doing that is consistent and a part of their day every day.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not like, oh, well, I go to the office and I deal with my emails every day. Does that count? No.
Yeah. Something to like, what's going to move the needle in my business?
Yeah.
And like a good example is probably that Melbourne builder. I don't want to name too many names and stuff in here, but we caught up with him for a coffee at a Melbourne builder workshop not too long ago. And we were just like doing small talk, like, what have you been up to today? And he was like, yeah, I gymmed and I did this. And, you know, and he was like, yeah, this is my like daily routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot going on.
Yeah.
He's got a family. He's got kids. His wife has her own professional career and doing very, very well there and does long hours. So there's no excuses there. He's someone who I would go, man, you could make so many excuses as to why you don't have a daily routine. Yeah. But he still fits in certain things in the morning and certain things in the evening, certain days a week. And
he's invested in a mastermind.
He has.
Like in one. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
so more on that later. It's a bit on the download at the moment. But yeah, so I think that's great.
What's the third one, Corne?
Yeah, I mean, we just spoke about goals, like athletes having like clear goals. So, you know, the third one is the builders that we see that are super successful. What is common traits? They've got clear goals and a way to track those goals.
That is one thing I've always find interesting because often I'm the one at the front end talking to new builders or those interested to work with us. And then, understanding their situation is a big part and understanding what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And this is one that definitely comes up a lot is when I ask them, where are you at and where do you want to go? Those that are really struggling and just have been stuck in one place for a long time, when I ask, where do you want to go? There's this knee jerk of, I don't really want to grow. I don't really want to, and they just, it's like,
yeah, or like there's no clear answer.
There's no clear answer.
And the most, I mean, I've been in that situation before where someone asks me like, what's your next goal? And I'm like, at that point. And I mean, that just comes back down to like, a lot of times we get clear on our goals and then you just go to work.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like get off track and that's because you're not tracking.
Yeah.
And then you got to go, I've got to get clear on my goals again.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the tracking part like keeps you top of mind, like what is my actual goal? Because you can set a goal today and tomorrow forget about it. Yeah. So you've got to have some way like to track it, and that's what we do. Yeah, so like you've got to like sit down and get clear on your goals. And those people that you talk to, they don't give you a straight answer. It's just because they haven't really thought about it lately.
Yeah. And I think it is hard for a lot of people, especially if they don't have a framework.
Yep.
If I said a random, sit down and go write your goals.
Yeah.
It's like, I've tried that and it's hard.
Especially because they only know what they know. Yeah. And that's why it's important to get in, like to do our number one, which is get into a good community, because you have to believe that you can achieve greatness. And if you haven't achieved greatness before, how do you know what greatness is?
Yeah.
And that's why you need to put yourself around a community of high achievers to actually see what's possible.
A story I mentioned the other day, and this is the great thing that I love when it comes back to community. We're big on that. And we like fostering and creating the community, connecting guys, the network. So I caught up with a builder, developer, I guess, in a way, last week. And he's done some developments for himself and for friends and that. But he's kind of lost at the moment. He's like, I don't know what's the next thing. What do I do? I'm stuck just doing the same thing. I'm thinking about doing this. And he's like, but I don't know how possible it is, or how do I get started? And I was like, man, you sound just like another one of our clients and where he was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, you just got to, I said, come up. I said, I'm having breakfast with him next month. You come up to the Gold Coast, have breakfast with us.
Yeah.
And I'll connect you guys beforehand, so maybe you guys can hang out for the day. But
Yeah.
I know he'll be happy to chat with you. He
Yeah.
loves sharing and teaching. And this guy was like, oh my goodness, yes, yeah. If I can get around someone who is 2 years ahead of me,
Yeah.
and I can not spend 2 years going through that mud,
Yeah.
and do it in, I don't know, 6 months.
Yeah.
You know, how much better is that?
Yeah. And the thing is, they've got to actually know what is 2 years ahead of them.
Yeah.
Like, what does that actually mean? That means it's someone that's got some clarity around a goal, right? If your goal is to develop, or your goal is to like sit on the beach, you know, every single day, like have that kind of goal. Those are two different goals. So you've got to like almost look at different mentors or different communities, right? To help you along that way. And that brings us back down to like, you've got to get clear on your goals.
Yeah.
Okay. And be able to track it.
And that's something I was going to chime in here, but a big thing that we do with our builders, because a lot of the guys coming to us, they don't have clarity.
Yeah.
They don't have a framework. And so that is like number one, before we touch a camera, before we do anything, create anything, we work with them to go, okay, let's get some clarity around your goals so that you know where you're going, and we know where you're going to help you get there.
Yeah. And it is hard to sit down and do your goals, but it's not that hard if you've got a framework. And that's why, like you said before, we take every single one of our clients to come on board with us through vision and story development. And in that is you getting clear on your vision and your story, like your story and your goals. So that's super important. And yeah, I guess.
What does tracking look like? Because some people tracking, you know, some people, you mention tracking and they think tracking the stock market, you know, like they can't take the word tracking and necessarily apply it to their daily life.
Yeah.
What does that look like, or how have you seen it come across?
Well, first of all, I've seen people track really well, but they're not clear on their goal, which means they tend to track too many different things. So it's almost like you're an athlete and you're not really clear on your goal. Okay. And then you start tracking, okay, I've got to do a 5K run every morning. I've got to do a 10K cycle. I've got to do a 100-meter swim. I've got to do like javelin. I've got to do all these different things and track everything. Yeah. But the people that are super clear on their goal, it's like, my goal is to run a marathon under, what's a good goal for a
3 hours?
Yeah. My goal is to do marathon under 3 hours. Then you're like, okay, cool. What do I need to do to be able to achieve that? Well, I've got to run. I've got to diet well. Like, what are the top 3 things that you need to do every single day? And then track those things. Yeah. You're not going to be tracking your swimming or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's so true. Because we've seen guys who 1 week it's, for example, run a marathon. Yeah. The next week it's triathlon.
Yeah. So in terms of our clients or builders, they might be like, 1 week it's tracking their SEO. Yeah. And then another week it's like their Facebook ads. And another week is doing like a podcast or whatever. There's like all these different things.
It's vlogs, and then it's it's all over.
Yeah. So I mean, what you want to look at is like track the key movers in your business. The 3 things or 5 things that'll move the needle in your business closer to your goal. Yeah. And that could be like, okay, the number of site visits I need to do every single month. Yeah. To be able to achieve my goal. Like, what does that look like? Is it 5 site visits? Is it 10 site visits? Because then the clicks and the leads and all that stuff doesn't really matter. Because that is the goal, so you'll just make that happen. Yeah. That's just an example.
Another example I've seen some guys do well is like, cool, if I want to be less in the weeds, more on the business. Therefore, and then it's about reverse engineering it. So then it's like, okay, well, I need my guys to take care of more things and not be calling me. And so then you'd be tracking, okay, how many times did my team call me today? Yeah. And then track it, you know, and how many times am I, and maybe you're not tracking that in an Excel spreadsheet, but just, you're conscious of it. Yeah. And again, if you're revisiting your goals consistently, that's going to be front of mind. Yeah. And see, when you go, okay, you know what, the guys keep calling me, that's not reducing, which means, okay, therefore I'm not getting closer to my goal, because that's a big goal for me. What do I need? What do they need? What are they lacking? Yeah. Take responsibility. What have I not given them? What tools do they need in order to have more autonomy? Yeah. And it comes back to goals, vision. Yeah. You know, if you can transfer that knowledge and that vision to them, then they are more clear on where the business is going. Then they can make decisions themselves in line with where you want the business to go.
Which then probably like takes us to a different topic, which we'll talk about another day, but it's about having the right people in the business. Yeah. So the 3 things: get yourself among a really good community. Number 2, a really good winning routine. And number 3, clear goals and tracking.
That's it.
Thanks for joining, JP.
Pleasure. Thanks, Corne.